Okay, let's get started. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So last Sunday, who remembers what the gospel was about last Sunday? Come on, it was like 3 days ago. Huh? The parable of the vine dresser, okay? So I kind of want to talk about that parable very quickly with you guys, and then I want to focus on something not about the parable, but something very specific in it. You guys know the story. I'll read it to you very quickly. In the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Then he began to tell the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard, leased it to vine dressers. So he planted it and then he leased it to others, and went into a far country for a long time. Now at the vintage time, or the picking time, whatever, he sent a servant to the vine dressers that they might give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again, he sent another servant, and they beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And again, he sent a third, and they wounded him and also cast him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they will respect him when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." They cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, "Certainly not." In one translation, they said, "God forbid." Then he looked at them and said, now he's talking to the Pharisees and the publicans and the scribes. He looked at them and said, "What then is that what is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder." And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. Okay? So, glory be to God forever, amen. And so, of course, this parable is directed at the people of Israel, right? He's giving them, he's talking to the chief priests and the scribes, and he's saying, there's a vine dresser, right? And he leased it to some people, and he wanted some fruit. And he sent some people. Obviously, he sent the prophets, and they beat the prophets. And then he sent some other people, and they beat them and cast them out. And then he sent some other people, and they got beat up too and shamefully treated. And then they said he's going to send the son, and they're going to kill him. So he's actually predicting what's going to happen to himself, right? He's basically telling you this is how this is going to go down, right? So he's actually telling you the future. And like when you read it now, you're like, well, maybe they didn't understand, but they very much understood, right? Because when he said, he said some harsh things, they would say, "Oh, no, God forbid." And then at the end, after that, they wanted to get him because they knew he was talking about them in front of the people, right? And I'm sure the way he was looking at them and the way he would stop and stare, I'm sure it gave a lot of hints that he was talking about them. But of course, I think sometimes we get caught up and we start thinking about how he's talking about the Jews and the Pharisees and how they don't get things, but we do get things. But of course, every parable is directed really towards us, more so than the scribes and the Pharisees. Who cares about them? Let's talk about us. So there's a lot of little gems here, and I want to focus on them one at a time. A certain man planted a vineyard, leased it to vine dressers, and went into a far country for a long time. Of course, he's talking about God. But what's weird to me is this part here, and went into a far country for a long time. Where did God go? So he planted this vineyard, and then he disappeared. Can God disappear? Does God go away and not be around? Right? So when you kind of look into this verse, St. Kyrillos has this interesting interpretation. He says it's not that God went away, it's that people felt he went away. Okay? And that makes a big difference, right? Elijah used to say this thing that I loved. He said, "As the Lord of hosts live, before whom I stand, I will surely present myself to him." Before whom I stand. So this is just an important lesson for all of us, right? I act differently when I know nobody's watching, right? I act differently when I know you can't read my thoughts. I think differently when I know it's hidden. right? When I'm around people, maybe friends from school or friends outside or no one that's going to get back to my parents or my inner circle at the church, we all act differently, right? Now, why is that? I was at a wedding the other day, like a couple weeks ago, and they're like, oh, we can't start dancing while the abunas are here, which I just think is stupid. I don't understand what that's all about. Like, either you can dance or you can't dance. If it's appropriate, you should do it, and if it's not appropriate, you shouldn't do it, even if the abunas are there or not there, right? Because when the abunas leave, guess what? God is still there, isn't he? So then, how does that make any sense? Really, it doesn't, right? And if there's something appropriate, do it in front of the Pope. And if it's not appropriate, don't do it in front of anyone, right? But we do this, right? When people are watching, we act differently. So the key is to remember God is always around. God is always watching, right? Not in an ominous way, right? But remember that I'm not alone. Remember there is a God, right? And we do this all the time, right? We do this all the time. Whenever I have a problem in the service, right? And this person is doing this thing and this person is doing that thing. What's the first thing I do? I think, okay, this person is doing this. I need to, do something to stop that person from doing that, or I need to fix it doing this, right? What don't I do? I don't look up and pray. I just fix it, right? I forget that there's a God. I do it all the time, right? And immediately I start to resort to things as a human, and I forget, oh yeah, there's a God, right? So don't let that happen to you, right? So when it says he leased it, then he went far away, he didn't go anywhere. They presumed he went away. And that's why they did what? Beat people and shamefully treat them and then kill them, because they don't see God. Can you serve and not see God? Yeah. Can you be a deacon and not see God? Yeah. Can you be a priest and not see God? Yeah. Right? Can you do lots of church things and not see God? Of course. It's easy, right? In fact, we often follow rules. Can I attend the entire liturgy, sing the entire thing, be so consumed about how the tune sounds, and this Kyrie eleison sounds like that, but that Kyrie eleison sounds like this, right? And forget the Lord to whom I'm saying have mercy? Of course. And I can say all of Our Father and not remember a word of it. I do it all the time. Okay. But then the next part I want to focus on is they beat these servants. It says they beat them and they cast them out and they shamefully treated them. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you beat someone, cast them out, shamefully treat them? Thoughts?
Power.
Okay. Power. They didn't want anything taken away from them. And they felt like these servants were going to do something to them, right? It must be the case that they thought of the servants as the enemy, right? They thought of them as enemies. And I want to focus on that concept for a second, right? Who's the enemy? What's the enemy? What's that word mean? An enemy. Right? I mean, I think of an enemy as a guy with a sword who's trying to stick a sword in me, right? Clearly, enemy. Okay? Someone who's trying to blow up my house. Enemy. Someone who's trying to stab me, right? And I'm going to fight, and I've got his knife, and then he's got another knife. That's an enemy. Okay? Someone who's physically trying to attack me. Okay? But this is like Irvine. It's 2021. We're in America. We don't have those kind of enemies. No one's trying to kill us. This isn't Chicago, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Someone trying to jack you, right? We don't have those kind of enemies. So that's kind of the first level of enemy. But today, here in Irvine, who's the enemy? Maybe someone who gossips about me, someone who judges me, posts about me, attack me, try to control me, try to manipulate me. Now, those people could be enemies, right? They're doing something to me. Maybe they're doing something to my family, right? But can I hate someone, consider them an enemy, even if they haven't done anything to me? What if I don't even know their name? Can I consider them an enemy? Sure. Right? There's a lot of people in this country, if I say I'm a Trump supporter, that's all I got to say. You are now my enemy. I like Nancy Pelosi. You are now my enemy. Do you know my name? No, I don't care. All I know is I hate you, and you and me, we're against each other. So can I consider someone an enemy who just thinks differently than I do? Are there ideological enemies? Yeah. Look at politics, right? Look at the arguments we've gotten over COVID vaccines. All you have to say is, hi, I'm an anti-vaxxer. You just made enemies. People hate you, right? Or you can be on the other side, whatever the other side is. I'm a triple masker. Whatever, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something, right? So those people exist, and there's a psychological reason why they are considered enemies, right? Because in my brain, I create a worldview, right? And you have developed this worldview over years, and you make your world very safe for yourself, okay? When someone comes and challenges your worldview, and it doesn't have to be like your world, like, oh, did you know you're adopted? Not that kind of worldview. I'm saying like the way I view things, and someone says, well, that's not the way I view things. And you're like, well, no, but that's not right. And it attacks you, and it literally is the same fight or flight instinct that you have when physically attacked. That's why you see on Instagram and the posts and the people just attacking each other viciously, right? They're in a fight or flight response, right? That person who said whatever, Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Don't Matter or White Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, whatever they said, they're your enemy, right? And you have to stop them, right? So you can actually create this psychological fight or flight defense with someone who is not attacking you, whose name you don't know, they don't know you, and you've never met, and they live 1,000 miles away. And all of a sudden, they're my enemy. What about someone who chooses their life to be different than yours? Can someone, and just because they've made a different choice than you, like a Muslim, a Jew, a Jehovah's Witness, a Mormon, a Protestant, they made a different religious choice than you have. Can people consider them enemies? You know that more wars were fought over religion than any other topic? Like the whole Crusades, those were what? They were atrocities, but they were religious wars. They were fought for the name of God. Because God wants us to kill those people. Right? So do people consider enemies just because you have a different belief than I do? Sure. Let's continue. What if the enemy is just someone who has adopted a different lifestyle than you have? All right? And I'm thinking here about same-sex attraction. Can those people be considered my enemy? Can a drug dealer be considered my enemy just because he's a bad person? A murderer, even if he hasn't killed me? What if someone's making bad life choices? A drunk, a drug addict? Right? So the list of enemies is huge. We create enemies all the time, and no one has a sword. No one's trying to kill us, right? We create enemies all the time. Can the enemy be closer? Can the enemy be your husband or wife? There's a lot of people. If you said, who is enemy number one? My husband, my wife, my child, my parents, my uncle, my family, right? Ask your parents. They'll tell you probably their biggest enemy is someone in their family, right? And heaven help us when it's the spouse. Happens all the time, right? And can it get worse? Can it be the priest? Yeah. Can it be the bishop? Sure. Can it be Amin al-Khidmah? Absolutely. Can it be the servant next to you who's an idiot and doesn't know nearly as much as you do? Yeah. Can they be the bane of your existence and causing all the problems in your life? Yeah. Could be your best friend? Yeah. Right? So we create enemies very, very quickly. You know Murphy's Law? Friends come and go, but enemies accumulate, right? And next thing you know, your boss is your enemy, your coworker's your enemy, subordinate's your enemy, your colleague's your enemy, and you've got enemies all over. At work, you guys get to work, you'll see there'll be groups. It's my group, it's their group. We don't talk to their group. This is our group. We talk with each other. We don't share with them. Right? When I was in the PhD program, one of my colleagues, so like, just so you know, they admit 3 students a year into the PhD program, in my program, right? So it was me and this other person, this guy who's just off La La Land, and this other girl. And me and the girl, we were very close. We studied together, we worked together, blah, blah, blah. 3rd year of the PhD program, all of a sudden, she's keeping stuff from me. She's not telling me things. I'm like missing out on opportunities. I'm supposed to sign up for stuff and she didn't even tell me. And I don't know. And then I find out she knew and she didn't tell me. And I've told her everything up until this point. And so I went up to her, I go, so why didn't you tell me I'm supposed to sign up to teach a class? She goes, well, I mean, I wanted to get the best spot. I said, okay, that's fine. You got the best spot. After you got the best spot, why wouldn't you tell me that I'm supposed to teach and that I can't graduate unless I teach? If I had found that out, I would have told you in a heartbeat. You know what she said? She goes, well, now we've reached a different stage and now we're competing. And so I don't want to give you any advantages over me. She said that. And this is a person who, if I told you I spent 100 hours talking to that year, you wouldn't believe me. Like 100 hours, she's crying and she's upset and I'm consoling her and I'm giving her my homework and I would do the assignments for her and I would tutor her. And this is what she did. She said, you're now my enemy. Right? So enemies are everywhere and they accumulate and they happen very, very quickly. Sorry, bug. All right. So how did the Jews handle the enemies again in this parable? They beat them, they shamefully treated them, they wounded them, they casted them out, and they eventually killed them. And we think to ourselves, those Jews, they're not good like us. They're not Christians like us. The Jews didn't get it. They didn't understand who Jesus was. Those Pharisees, those guys, they don't know. They don't know what we know. But believe me, when I look at this list, I can judge the Jews as misguided and they don't understand what I know, right? But, shamefully treat them, beat them, wound them, cast them out. Yeah, that's stuff I do. That's stuff that happens to us by our enemies, social circles, friends, parties that you aren't invited to, being cast out from different groups. This is what people do. So this isn't a parable for the Jews, is it? It's a parable for us in Irvine in 2021. Because it turns out this still happens in spades. And now there's a weapon that all of you have that no one used to have. To hurt someone, you needed a sword back in the day. Now the phone does it just as effectively. Right? Now you can lash out very effectively, very quickly, right, using your phone as a weapon. And you guys know all the little tricks, right? Like a certain thing, don't like a certain thing, follow a certain person, don't follow a certain person, post a certain thing, don't post a certain thing, right? And everybody's following, right? And we know how to get each other. Right? No need a sword anymore. Then Christ comes along and says, love your enemies. Not like, love. And that's a tall order, right? Especially as I'm talking now, many of you are thinking of all the enemies you have, right? All the different people who have done things to you, to your family, to your friends, to your group, to your team, to your, Republican or Democratic Party, to your whatever, anti-vaxxer, vaxxer, whatever you are, whatever box you've put yourself in, the other box, the other people, right? The not you guys, right? And those people are everywhere. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Because, it's not natural. What Christ is asking is not natural, right? I mean, if you take a dog and you kick a dog a couple of times, what happens the next time you try to walk up to the dog and kick it? It growls, right? And if the next time, it doesn't let you kick it, does it? It takes a bite at you, right? Because even a dog is smart enough to know you kick me a few times, I'm not going to let you kick me again, right? Especially if I've got some sharp teeth, right? You come near me, right? And then I'll take a nip at you if I can. So when you've been kicked a few times, it's not natural for you to say, yeah, I think I'll get kicked again. Not only that, I think I'm going to love the person kicking me. It's lunacy. So why would Christ say something lunacy like that? Something that crazy. And remember, he's talking to people when you say enemy, it's a guy with a sword who's trying to stab you in the liver, right? How can you do that? So first trick is you can't actually see the enemy. The person in front of you, the person doing all those things, that's not the enemy. Wrong enemy. That's your brother. So St. Paul says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the rulers of darkness, spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. So who's the enemy? Satan is the enemy. The person in front of you is being manipulated. The person in front of you is a puppet. I'll read you another translation, it's better. The warfare we're engaged in, you see, isn't against flesh and blood. It's against the leaders, authorities, the powers that rule the world in this dark age, against the wicked spiritual elements in the heavenly places. So whenever you find somebody at work, at school, and believe me, you're going to find these people if you haven't already, right? It starts like in the 3rd grade, right? You know, with I like kickball and they like baseball, my enemy, right? And it continues. Humans are really good at this for some reason, right? We have to realize that even when someone is out to get us, that they're not the enemy. They're being manipulated. And when I see them as a broken person being manipulated, it's a lot easier for me to kind of look at them and go, poor guy. I get you want to hurt me. I get you want to get me. I get you want to do whatever you want to do to me. But I also get you're being deceived. And I also get that if I tell you you're being deceived, you're going to be like, oh, screw you, bro. So I can't even tell you that. All I can do is love back. Right? And this is exactly the response that Christ gave to being crucified. He's being crucified. He's said what he needs to say. He's done what he needs to do. There's nothing left. So what does he say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Perfect answer. That's really the only thing you need to say anytime someone screws you over. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Believe me, you do that, and it just eases everything. And this could be your mom, this could be your dad, this could be your brother, this could be your sister. It could be that close. It could be the priest, it could be the archdeacon even, whatever. Right? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Right? Because we hurt each other as humans all the time. All the time. Right? In so many ways. All of us can think about people who have hurt us deeply. Right? And a lot of times inadvertently. Sometimes purposefully. But inadvertently so many times. Right? And how do I get to that point of forgiveness? I have to look at them and go, it wasn't you. So in the Paradise of the Fathers, which, you know, this is this big book about old monks. Has anyone ever read this book? Busten? Okay. This book is crazy, right? These are the guys who went to the desert. So you guys know how monasticism evolved? So before monasticism, there was no monasticism, right? Before St. Anthony, there was no monasticism. There was martyrdom, right? So until the year 313 AD, right, all the Christians, anyone who said, I'm a Christian, they just try to kill you. And most of them got killed, right? You know, like, you guys know that like almost every bishop that got ordained was executed. So when you were ordained as a bishop, you were basically bishop and martyr. And it's just a few months before they found you and killed you. Right? I mean, this is the full power of the Roman Empire. after you, right? They've got secret spies. They've got all the CIA you want. They're following people into churches. They're looking for the bishop. And it's always the bishop. Kill the bishop and you can break up the whole Christian community, right? I mean, the religion is banned by the government, right? And you have total authoritarianism, right? There's no human rights in the Roman Empire, right? So they would have all these people spying and pretending to be Christians, following bishops around, and they would just go kill the bishop, okay? So, I don't know how I got there. I went off on a tangent now. I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So, back in the day, right, everybody who was a Christian was killed. And then 313 came along, and they basically said, all right, Christianity is a state religion. This is, who did this? Does anyone remember? Constantine, right? So, once this happened, there's a whole bunch of people who are like, no, I want the persecution. I want the fight. So they literally went out to the deserts, right? And it's called the white martyrdom, right? They fought and they died in the wilderness. So these guys were like hardcore guys, right? They would do things, when you read about the stuff they did, it's just, some of it sounds crazy until you get what's inside their head, right? They were trying to kill everything of the flesh. Nobody was going to kill them. So they tried to die themselves. As St. Paul says, I die daily with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, right? They would do things like, they would get some food that looked really good, and they're like, I don't want to enjoy this so much. I'll just put a little bit of dirt on it, just to mess up the taste, right? This is the way these guys were. So they're hardcore guys. Anyway, so what did they say? It says, if you see your brother falling into sin, say without hesitation. How do you think this ends? These guys are hardcore. They're very strict. They're very pure. And they said, you see your brother falling into a great sin. What do you say to your brother? What would you say? He says, say without hesitation, a curse on you, Satan. My brother is not to blame. Dang. That's Christianity. These are the hardcore monks, right? These are the OG guys. These are the fanatics of Christianity. It's not the fanatics we see now in Christianity on TV. Those people, in my opinion, are not all Christian. They're very judgmental and hateful. There's a lot of judgmental and hateful people under the name of Christianity. It's not okay. These are the real patristic fathers. And when they said, you see someone sitting a great sin, you say, I curse on you, Satan, my brother is not to blame. You see the perspective? Right? That's how they love each other. That's how I can remain in communion with all these people, and everybody is messing with me. Everyone's doing things to me that are inappropriate. Everyone's hurting me in different ways. Curse on you, Satan, my brother is not to blame. Right? So that's the first trick. That's how we love an enemy. Enemy can't be seen. The guy in front of me, he's just a sucker. How do I know? Because I'm a sucker. And you're a sucker. And you have been suckered so many times. Right? And if you don't know that, then you're also delusional. But I'm sure you all know. How many times have you been suckered and fallen and tricked and did something stupid and go, my God, why did I do that? Can't even count. Right? So we're all in the same boat, guys. We're all in the same boat. We've all been stupid. We've all hurt other people. We've all been accessories. And the best thing we can say is, I hope he can forgive. I'll forgive him, and I hope he forgives me when I mess up, because I'm gonna mess up, right? And I hope people afford me that same respect when I mess up, and at least have the courtesy to tell me to my face instead of behind my back. Mother Teresa says, today, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. That man, that woman, that child is my brother or sister. If everyone could see the image of God in his neighbor, do you think we would still need tanks and generals? She's saying there'd be no war. War is when I see them, another country. There's a line that you can't really see on the ground, an imaginary line. On that line, they speak that language. On this line, we speak that language, and we got to get them, right? And people fight wars over the dumbest things. I mean, you go to Ireland, Catholics and the Protestants are still blowing up churches. They're Catholics and Protestants, and they're both Irish. They have that silly accent, right? And they both talk stupid, and yet they're all killing each other. They kill each other because it's like, you're a Catholic, I'm going to kill you because I follow Jesus differently than you follow Jesus. You think I'm kidding? Google it. Like, they probably had a killing like last week. They've been killing each other for centuries. Ever since like Protestantism started. They're like, we got to stop Protestant. We'll kill them. It's genius, right? And they're like, I know what I'll do. I'll kill you back. They was like, yeah, good idea. All right. We laugh, but we do the same thing. I'll tell you, I want to read you guys a story about this guy named Elder Paisios. So a girl came up to him once whose mother was ill with cancer. Okay? And she asked him, pray for my mother so that she will recover. He answered, well, I will pray so that your mother, whom you love so much, will recover. That is, God will take the disease from her, but give it to you, so that you carry this cross instead of your mother. The girl was frightened. Father, what are you saying? I asked you to pray for my mother so that she will recover. Did you guys hear what he said? Well, yes, she will recover, but may God give this disease to you. It will be better. You can deal with it. You're young. You're strong. No, Father, no. My mom should recover and no one else gets sick. But my child, how then can we show our love? Will you not show a little sympathy for the pain of another person, your mom? No. Okay, listen, this is what we'll do. Let your mother recover, and you and I will share the cancer. Half for you and half for me. Father, listen to me. Can I just pray that my mother be completely cured and that we all be healthy? But don't you want to learn to love just a little bit? I already love her. For her, I'm dying. He says, oh, how do you die for her? You get a little cancer, and I'll take most of the cancer for myself. How about that? And your mother will be cured. I'll take 90% of the cancer, and you can just take 10% of your mom's cancer. The conversation was obviously a bit of a test. He wanted to see the extent of her love. And so a lot of times we say, love the Lord your God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. And we're all, keen on the love the God stuff, but the neighbor as yourself, not so much. Love is a choice. It's not a feeling. I'll say it again. Love is a choice. It's an action. It's not a feeling. All you guys, as you start to date and get engaged and get married and fall in love and fall out of love and then fall back in love and I don't know if I love and I'm not sure if I love and all the things that you guys are going to go through, okay? You have to realize that at this level, at this point in your life, love is a feeling, right? I don't know. I can't tell if I love her. I can't tell if I love him. I don't know, right? But as you mature, you realize that love isn't that, right? Whatever feeling you have, it will be gone in a year or two. You'll be over it. FYI. And then the question is, do I choose to love? And love is one thing. It is sacrifice, right? It's not how does he make me feel? How does she make me feel? What does she do for me? What does he do for me? There's a lot of what? Me in that. That's not love. That's me. That's selfish. That's what we call, the chicken love that I've given you that example before, right? When you say, I love chicken, right? And what do? You take a chicken, you cut its head off, you pull the feathers off its body, you boil it, and then you eat its flesh with your teeth. No one loves chicken. Right? So when we say, I love eating the chicken and I love myself and chicken makes me happy. So I say, I love chicken, right? And some people say, I love him. Why do you love him? Because he makes me feel like this. So who do you love again? Me, right? I love mountain biking. Do you love mountain biking? Do you love a mountain bike? Can you love a mountain bike? No, I love me. This makes me happy, so I love mountain biking. So love is a choice. Love is sacrifice. So what he's poking here at is the fact that this girl, even though she said, I love my mom, he wanted her to know you don't love your mom. You just say you do. You want your mom to get better so she gets out of your hair and she's not a mess anymore, and you can stop taking her to the hospital and you can stop taking her to the doctor's appointments. You don't love your mom. You love yourself. And this is a problem we all have. There's a saint in the Greek Orthodox Church. He was a confession father, and he was one of these guys that would, he could see what was wrong with you before you showed up, right? So you'd walk in and he'd go, yeah, your uncle, huh? Like that kind of guy. He had a room, as you could imagine, full of people confessing to him. Hundreds of people would wait to confess to him. He was a confession father. He would take confessions for 15, 16 hours a day, and the guy's 90 years old. And his health is failing, and he's exhausted, and the room is full of people wanting to confess to him. And his disciples would say, Father, you gotta take a break. You're gonna kill yourself. I mean, you're not resting. Take less confessions, take for 5 hours, maybe not so much. Do you know what he would say? He would say, if I can't take these people to heaven with me, then I don't want to go. If I can't take these people to heaven with me, I don't want to go. That's a whole nother league of love your neighbor as yourself. Now, I compare that to how I love people. It's pretty bad, right? As soon as they burn me once, we're already on the outs. Burn me twice, you're done. You could go to hell for all I care, right? And yet this guy's perspective is totally different. So this parable of the vine dresser, it's about enemies, right? And the commandment that Christ gives us is mind-boggling, right? And the only way to achieve that commandment is you have to see the reality. The reality is the guy in front of you isn't the guy. The girl in front of you isn't the girl causing the problems. They're puppets, right? You guys know what I'm doing with my hands, right? There's a puppet master who can manipulate the puppets. And we're all being manipulated in ways we don't even know. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to reconcile with someone because there's a problem. And then I find out that I was doing things or saying things in a way that triggered him or her that I was unaware of. And I was like, wow, I was being manipulated to even say things that are very innocuous, but to them, we're like, all right, let's go. Right? Even that was being manipulated. And thank God the other person on the other side had the grace to say, Father, forgive him, for he knows not what he does. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments? Thoughts? Anything to add, subtract? I can keep going if you want, but should I keep going? 5 more minutes? All right. So the last thing we'll talk about is the verse says, the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again, he sent another servant. They beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. So when he would send these servants for some grapes, they left empty-handed. Why? Why did they leave empty-handed? Say again?
So you were saying
the main vine dresser guy who owns the land, he would send the servant to the people who had leased the vineyard from, and he sent them for some grapes. And he said, I want some of the grapes from my vineyard, right? It's kind of like I own a Subway and I have a guy managing the Subway. I'm the owner of the Subway. And every once in a while I send a guy and say, hey, so where's the income from the sandwiches? And they take my guy and they beat him up. And they say, there's no money, go away. And they beat him up. Why are they sending him away empty-handed? Twice. They keep sending them away. No grapes.
Send a message. We're not giving you grapes.
All right. Why not give some grapes? I mean, the guy owns the vineyard. It's his vineyard. He planted it. He just leased it to you. Why wouldn't you give them some grapes? Why would you beat the servant up?
They're greedy.
Greedy, maybe. Good hypothesis. Think of in terms of the Jews.
They want to use it to wine.
Maybe. Yeah, Michael? They beat him. They killed him. Many of the prophets that God sent were killed by the Jews.
They were enemies.
Yeah. There were no grapes. There was no fruit. He would send the vine dresser who owns the vineyard, would say, I want some fruit. So instead of admitting there was no fruit, they'd beat the guy up and send him away. If there's fruit, they would just give him some fruit. It's not even my fruit. I don't even own the place. Why is there no fruit?
They're not fruitful.
Why are they not fruitful?
We don't obey them.
Well, there's lots of reasons why. They ate them all, maybe. I don't think you need that many grapes. So there's no fruit. Why is there no fruit? Well, first thing, and I think an important lesson is obviously, is because they're the kind of people that hate their enemies. That's not love. Love isn't like that. There can be no fruit where there is no love. Right? And I'm going to say that to all of you in every circumstance of your life. There can be no fruit in your marriage, in your children, in your service, in your work, in your life, if there is no love. Okay, well, let me finish back. Right? So the only way a service produces fruit is if it's loving. Mother Teresa used to always say, it's not about the amount of stuff you do, it's about the amount of love you do in the stuff. And it doesn't matter what you do. It can be little, it can be big, it can be in front of people, it can be not in front of people, which is better. It's about the love you put into it. Right? Not the love of the self, but the love of God. But the second reason, okay, Michael, go ahead. No. Okay. The second reason there's no fruit, and this is the important thing for us, the implication for us. Do you guys remember that story of Christ and the fig tree? We read it on Monday night of Holy Week, right? So you got a fig tree, it's got a lot of leaves, okay? And there's no what? There's no fruit, okay? So what are the leaves in this parable, in this story? What are the leaves of a fig tree?
Life of the tree.
Yeah, I mean, so a leaf, points at the sun, photosynthesis happens, right? So when there's big leaves, I'm supposed to take that stuff in, I do things, and then the fruit comes out. So in the spiritual life, those leaves are things like reading the Bible, praying, going to communion, ascetic practices, fasting, staying up late, tasbihah, vigil, matanyas, whatever. So those leaves, the fathers tell us, are ascetic practices like fasting and vigil and praise, and the sacraments, confession, communion, Bible reading, prayer, whatever. That's the stuff, but that's not the fruit. So it's really important for us to understand that those things that we do in the church are not the fruit. And if they don't produce fruit, we have a problem. So what's the fruit? I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison. And those things are not necessarily, they're definitely actual. Hungry people in prison. But do you have to be in prison to be in prison? Can people be imprisoned in here? In here? Do you know people who are in dungeons? Yeah. I do. Do you know people who are sick, who don't have a cold? Yeah. Do you know people who are hungry? Yeah. So, all that stuff is what? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the fruit. And if we do all the things at church, and then we think that those things are the things, then we've missed the whole point. Right? If you read the Bible, and it doesn't lead you to love your neighbor as yourself, then you're doing it wrong. Then do something else. Right? Because if all you're doing is you're saying, hey, I finished the Bible in a year and I entered this contest and I won and and I got all the quiz questions right, whatever. Doesn't even matter. Right? So these things have to lead to other things. Does that make sense? So the reason these guys got beat up and they're sent away empty-handed is there is no fruit. Does this happen in our church? All the time. I was talking with someone the other day and she was complaining about her boyfriend. And she said, he's not like this other guy I dated. This other guy I dated, he was like this, and he was great at that. But this guy is not that. Right? And so we kind of talked a little bit about it, and we came to a realization that sometimes in life, I would like to have this boyfriend, but I don't. I have this one. I want to have this husband, but I don't have that husband. I want to have this wife, but I have this wife. I want to have this daughter, but I have that daughter. I want to have this abuna, but I have that abuna. I want to have these parents, but I have those parents. Right? And sometimes in life, I have to be content with what I don't have. Right? And then we start thinking about what fasting is. What's fasting? I want to eat that, but I'm going to eat this. Right? And I'm going to train myself, even though I want that, to have this. And be content with this, even though I want that. So that's what fasting is. You see what I'm saying? Fasting isn't about, I read the ingredients and I actually found something I really like. Awesome, I won. No, that's stupid. You missed the whole point. The whole point is, yeah, I know you want to eat that. Eat this. Because that teaches you the big things, right? It's not about the freaking, fourth ingredient of the pastry, right? It's about life. Life's hard, right? I want to have that job, but I got this one. I wanted to go to this school, but I got into that one. I wanted to have this friend, but I got that one. I want to have the friend that asked about me, but I get a friend that stabs me in the back. I want to have parents that cared, but I have parents that are stupid. I want to have parents that are whatever, right? This is life. So what's fasting? It's teaching you on a very basic, simple level, I want this, but I'm going to have that. And I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to teach myself to be okay with that. Right? And we're so stupid that we think, okay, hey, I found something I like and I cheated, I won. I love this stuff. I love pokey during this yum. Okay, nice. You see what I'm saying? Right? So a big part of life is this sacrifice, right? Is this concept. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments? So, yeah, Michael, sorry. I can't hear you. Louder.
Okay. Didn't God himself ask the Jews to make war with people? That, and as far as I understand from the Old Testament, there isn't really a command of love.
No, I mean,
It is in the New Testament.
no, you're right. Christ definitely upped the commandment. But having said that, he spoke one time with that, I think it was a priest, and he said, how do you read the scripture? And he said, love God with all your heart and your mind and love your neighbor as yourself. And Christ was very impressed with him and said, you get it. Right? So there's definitely that commandment of love. Going back to making war with people, right? Definitely in the Old Testament, God commanded those people to conquer other lands and other peoples in sometimes horrendous ways. And it's very difficult to reconcile these things. Okay? But having said that, those aren't acts of love or not love, right? And sometimes I think we get a little bit caught up in the physical part of this. So like, for example, in Moses' time, there was a fight between the people of Israel, right? And then some people were against Moses and some people were with Moses, okay? So then God said, all right, everyone with Moses, stand over here, and everybody against Moses, stand over there, right? And Moses said, if you're with me on my side, and if you're against me, stand over there. The ground opened up and swallowed all the people who were against Moses, right? And you think, that's not nice, okay? But having said that, and that's true, it's not very nice, okay? But having said that, did those people go to hell? No. I don't know, right? We're looking at it from a human perspective that like they were killed, bad thing. That doesn't mean they went to hell, right? God was trying to create law and order and structure and reason and to show himself to these people, right? That's the important thing here, right? These people may have eternity in heaven. I don't know. See what I'm saying? So sometimes we view the act from the outside and say, oh, that was a bad thing. Like someone got in a car accident. Oh, that's a horrible thing. Why did God let that bad thing happen? Or someone has a disease. That's a bad thing. Why did God let that bad thing happen? You're calling it bad. I don't know that it's bad, right? In fact, sometimes the people in those situations will say that accident was the best thing that ever happened to me. That disease was the best thing that ever happened to me, right? So sometimes we label things differently. But the love that the Jews don't have, that I'm talking about, that's not about actions, it's about the heart, right? It's about the way they viewed each other. It's about the way they viewed God, right? And Christ came so that he could explain who this God was, because they didn't get it. They thought he was a God of rules. And sometimes we think the same thing. It's a God of rules. It's a God of, wait a minute, how many hours am I supposed to fast? And how long is this fast? And all right, those are just rules. That's not what Christ came for. Make sense?
Yes. The other question is then, why did God deal with his people in that way before, and now is dealing with us in a more loving way?
I don't know that he deals with us in a loving way. Let me rephrase that. He deals with us in a loving way, but it's equally harsh. I mean, when someone gets cancer,
It's always about complete annihilation of a group of people. I don't really see that happening.
okay, that's a big topic. We'll talk about that one. We'll talk individually. But having said that, I think it's the same thing, right? I think God deals with us in ways, when a friend, loses a child, that's harsh. I don't think that that's any nicer, or someone gets cancer or loses a leg or gets paralyzed or dies, or a child, we see horrendous things. It's all still there. Any other questions? Comments? All right. Glory be to God forever. Amen.